China declares war on Germany and Austria and enters the World War on the side of the Allies. Although no Chinese troops engaged in battle, the Allies recruited 175,000 Chinese laborers in Europe and Mesopotamia. More than 2,000 died and were buried far from their ancestral homes. The question of China's entrance in the World War had become the focal point of an intense political struggle. At stake was the control of national government between Premier Duan Shirui, the warlord general, and Sun Yat-sen and his National People's Party. The World War was in its third year. With Russian participation now uncertain because of the Tsar's abdication, the Allies needed to bring in new forces against an enduringly strong Germany. The US had just entered the war and encouraged China to do likewise. The National People's Party and Sun Yat-sen were initially against the war. Sun's anti-war sentiment was summarized in a lengthy document titled The Vital Problem of China. The booklet was a harsh critique of imperialism, condemning Great Britain for how it treated its colonies. Sun Yat-sen understood that Duan Shirui's real agenda was to use the West's military aid to gain total control of the country. It would shatter his dream of making China a parliamentary democracy along the French model. But Duan Shirui won the debate. By siding with the Allies, he believed that China and the warlord generals would enjoy a privileged cooperation with the West. China would also participate in the peace conference, hoping to recover German-occupied Shandong. Duan Shirui was unaware that the Allies had secretly promised Shandong to Japan, whose naval power they thought was critical in the war effort. In the 1919 Paris Peace Conference, Shandong province was given to Japan, crushing Chinese expectation. Already deeply resentful of Japan's infamous 21 demands of 1915, Chinese students and intellectuals were outraged by what they considered the latest betrayal of the Allies. In protest, they stormed the streets of Beijing on May 4, 1919, national survival their rallying cry. A dissident government is formed in Canton, the Republic of China military government. Sun Yat-sen is elected its leader and Grand Marshal. In taking on the warlords and the government of Beijing, Sun seeks support and recognition from the West. This was the first of many attempts by Sun Yat-sen to unify China from his southern power base. His dream was realized in 1928, 3 years after his death, under the leadership of his chosen successor, Chiang Kai-shek. Sun's political thought was heavily influenced by his Western education and many years of residing in Japan, Europe, and the US. His political doctrine, the three principles of the people, was admittedly borrowed from Lincoln. The first principle was that of nationalism. Sun believed China needed to develop a national consciousness to free itself from imperial domination and become a sovereign nation-state. The second principle was that of democracy. Only in a democracy could liberty and equality flourish. The third principle was that of people's livelihood, Sun's version of socialism. Only the state could ensure a fair distribution of the vital resources and avoid the injustice experienced by the capitalist way of life. Sun sought an alliance with the Western power. But the West failed to come to terms with Chinese nationalism and consistently rejected Sun Yat-sen. Sun eventually turned to Lenin for support. he was impressed by the success of the Soviet Revolution. Sun was opposed to Marxism's central concept of class struggle, but he needed Comintern resources and assistance to establish a strong military, one capable of defeating the warlords and unify China. Sun Yat-sen initiated and nurtured the movement that ousted the Qing dynasty in 1911. With Russian support, he also put China on the path of reunification. The prophet of China's national independence, Sun has become China's ultimate hero. After having seized power in Russia, Lenin delivers his decree on peace to secure an end to World War I. The decree also astutely positioned Russia as the democratic champion of all oppressed nations, facilitating the export of communism. The Russian appeal was also intelligently directed at the tide of nationalism beginning in China. Renouncing the Western carving up of Chinese port cities only enhanced Russia's attraction. On the contrary, most representatives of Western interest in China continued the policy of preserving their own special privileges. The West persisted to support the local ruling warlords, hated by most Chinese, because this guaranteed them the greatest rewards. Bitter nationalist resentments were rekindled by the 1919 Paris Peace Conference, giving Shandong province to Japan. The Allies, and especially Japan, were now being viewed as cynical and aggressive imperialists. Chinese radical intellectuals became disillusioned with liberal democratic promises. There was also the tempting example of the 1917 October Revolution. That success made it abundantly clear how powerful a revolutionary ideology Marxism could be. The study of Marxism soon found a receptive audience amongst Chinese radicals. Li Dajiao and Chun Du-shu were amongst the first sympathizers. They later co-founded, with the young Mao, the Chinese Communist Party. Initially focused on Europe, Turkey, and Persia, Lenin had come to the conclusion that Asian nationalist movements were necessary for expediting the overthrow of capitalism. Aware that Sun Yat-sen had courted the West in vain, Lenin provided the support Sun needed. Comintern advisors were dispatched to China and significant sums of money were made available. Ultimately, Russian assistance proved essential in China's reunification. For both Sun Yat-sen and the more radical Chinese intellectuals, the October Revolution became a powerful prism for the analysis of revolution and the defeat of imperialism. May 4, 1919 proved to be a crucial moment of the modern Chinese Revolution. Students dared the authorities because of their newly attained sense of worth, strong in their belief they would positively influence the course of China. They acquired their new political and social self-awareness at Tsai Yun-pei's Beijing University. Students got a taste for victory when Hu Shi's and Chun Du-shu's literary movement made vernacular writing the official language. This change proved Chinese radicals could aspire to become a modern and thriving nation. Students' patriotic cry for a democratic and united China echoed Sun Yat-sen's life quest of saving China, not only from the now defunct Qing dynasty, but also from Western colonialism and Japan's territorial and political ambitions. Final victory was achieved also thanks to the support of Lenin and the Comintern, as well as Mao's leadership in later years. Communism became a successful model for China, satisfying a strong national sentiment and proving essential to the transformation of Chinese society. Coincidentally or not, these events all originated or took place in 1917, when Europe, Japan, and the US were deeply absorbed in the bloodiest of wars. None of these episodes could have singly sparked the student uprising of May 4th. But today, we can appreciate how the events of 1917 acted as a catalyst and signaled the beginning of China's struggle towards freedom, independence, and modernity.